For 3,000 years, the galaxy had known nothing but peace. The Galactic Accord, a treaty formed by hundreds of species from every corner of the universe, had held together like a fine-tuned clock. It was a peace of convenience, yes, but it was peace nonetheless. The greatest civilizations, beings of unimaginable power, had set aside their differences, agreeing to one simple rule: do not engage in war. No matter how different or far apart their species were, they would abide by the accord, a symbol of unity and cooperation. Among them, Earth was a relatively new addition. Humans were still finding their place in the galaxy, but they were known for their quick adaptability, their creativity, and their surprising talent for diplomacy. They were peacekeepers, some called them. Others saw them as a stabilizing force. They had helped craft the accord, ensuring that even the most distant worlds could coexist without fear of war. But all of that was about to change. The Dralvok Empire, a race of fierce warriors who had long resented the restrictions placed on their expansion, had been quietly planning their rebellion for centuries. They were not content with the peaceful status quo. For them, war was a way of life. Their emperor, a ruthless leader named Jorek, had long dreamed of reclaiming their lost glory that the accord had stripped from them. The Dralvok were warriors, not diplomats, and they had grown tired of waiting. Jorek knew the time had come. The Dralvok would no longer sit idle while the galaxy remained stagnant in peace. The Empire had gathered strength in secret. Their fleet, once small and insignificant, now outnumbered most others in the galaxy. Hidden in the darkness of deep space, their armada grew larger by the day, ready to strike at the heart of humanity's colonies. The first target would be Earth itself. When the attack came, it was swift. Dralvok warships appeared out of nowhere, decloaking above human colonies like shadows descending upon the light. They unleashed a hail of laser fire, obliterating human defense structures in mere moments. It was clear they wanted war, and they would not be stopped. The Galactic Council, made up of representatives from every species, was thrown into chaos. The news spread like wildfire. Thousands of peaceful races, from the gentle Zorvians to the proud Krenthians, feared that the Dralvok's sudden aggression would plunge the galaxy into chaos once again. But as the council convened, one voice stood out. General Adrian Vega, a human representative known for his calm and level-headed nature, was unfazed. The emergency meeting had been called to discuss humanity's response to the Dralvok's declaration of war, but as he watched the panicked faces of the alien delegates, he couldn't help but feel a strange sense of calm. "You want us to be afraid," Vega said, his voice steady as he addressed the council. His words echoed in the chambers, silencing the murmurs that filled the room. "But you don't understand us." The room fell silent. The alien leaders, some of whom had never met a human face to face, stared at him in confusion. "Humans don't fear war," Vega continued. "We've been through it all before. We don't run from it. We don't hide. We adapt." The other delegates exchanged glances, unsure how to react. The Dralvok had declared war on humanity, and yet this human general was speaking with an almost eerie confidence. How could they be so calm? "General Vega, are you telling us that humanity is ready to fight the Dralvok alone?" asked one of the Zorgian delegates, his voice tinged with disbelief. "They are a force like no other. Their fleet is vast." Vega smiled, a knowing look in his eyes. "I'm not saying we'll fight alone," he said, "but I am saying we're ready. Don't underestimate us. You'll see." The meeting was adjourned, but the unease lingered. The other species still couldn't understand how humanity could remain so confident, so unshaken. But Vega knew something the council didn't. Humans had never stopped preparing for this day. For centuries, humans had quietly worked behind the scenes, developing technology, strategies, and resources that no one had ever imagined. While the other species rested on their laurels, humans had continued to innovate. Their military technology had evolved beyond what most thought possible. But it wasn't just their weapons that made them formidable. It was their spirit, their relentless determination to survive, no matter the odds. As Vega returned to Earth's defense headquarters, he gathered his team of elite strategists and engineers. They had a plan, and it was already in motion. The Dralvok had made a grave mistake, underestimating humanity. They had started a war with the wrong species, and now humanity was ready to show them exactly what they were capable of. It wasn't fear or panic that gripped General Vega. It was something else, a quiet confidence, a knowledge that humanity had been waiting for this moment. When the Dralvok sought to break the peace, humanity didn't tremble. Instead, they laughed. As the Dralvok Empire's warships advanced toward Earth, humanity's response was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Dralvok, known for their brute strength and fearsome weapons, expected humans to panic and plead for help from the Galactic Council. But the humans had prepared for this moment, quietly and strategically, long before the first shots were fired. While the galaxy's other species rested in peace, humanity had spent the last few centuries strengthening their defenses and advancing their technology. The humans had always been known for their creativity and ability to adapt, and they had used those traits to prepare for any situation, including this war they had known might come. General Adrian Vega, sitting in the command center, could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. The first wave of Dralvok ships had already begun firing on human colonies, and yet Vega remained calm. His people had a plan. It wasn't about facing the Dralvok in the traditional sense. Humanity wasn't looking to defeat them in a direct battle. Instead, they had prepared in ways that would leave the Dralvok disoriented and unprepared. "Deploy the drone fleet," Vega ordered, his voice steady and confident. "Activate the defense grids and prepare for a counterattack." Human technology had advanced in ways the galaxy hadn't expected. While the Dralvok focused on heavy firepower and traditional combat, humanity had perfected unmanned drones that were capable of fighting with a precision the Dralvok had never encountered. These drones were not simply machines. They were intelligent, adaptable, and able to think for themselves. They were powered by advanced AI systems that could predict enemy movements before the Dralvok even made a move. As the drones launched from Earth's surface, the Dralvok warships suddenly found themselves outmatched. The drones swarmed in fast-moving formations, dodging laser blasts and counterattacking with pinpoint accuracy. Every move they made was calculated, every strike designed to weaken the Dralvok's superior firepower. The Dralvok fleet tried to regroup, but the humans had already outsmarted them. The warship's sensors, designed to detect incoming attacks, were thrown into chaos as the drones used quantum cloaking technology. The Dralvok had never seen anything like it. Every time they thought they had destroyed a drone, another one would appear from nowhere, striking their ships in weak points, taking out key weapon systems. On the ground, humanity's planetary defense systems were also activated. These were massive energy shields, powered by the latest fusion reactors, capable of absorbing and redirecting any energy-based attacks. The Dralvok had been used to overwhelming their enemies with sheer power, but humanity's defensive technology was built to withstand exactly that. As the first blasts from Dralvok ships hit the planetary shields, they were absorbed without a scratch. "What in the galaxy?" muttered Commander Xora, one of the Dralvok generals, as her ship's weapons systems failed to penetrate the human defense systems. She had expected this to be an easy victory. She had expected humanity to crumble. But the humans were doing the unthinkable, holding their ground with a calm confidence that was starting to frustrate her. Vega, watching from Earth's command center, smiled. He knew the Dralvok had underestimated humanity's technological advancements. They had assumed humans were weak, that they lacked the will to fight. But what the Dralvok didn't realize was that humanity didn't rely on overwhelming strength alone. Instead, they had perfected the art of strategy. Back at the Galactic Council, the other species watched in shock as the reports came in. The Dralvok had launched their attack, but humanity was not only holding its ground. Humans were pushing them back. The Zorvian representative, who had once doubted humanity's capabilities, leaned forward in disbelief. "Are they truly winning?" the Zorvian asked, his voice trembling. The Krenthian delegate, who had always admired humanity's ingenuity, nodded. "Yes, they are." The Dralvok underestimated them. The council's chambers fell silent as the galaxy's leaders tried to make sense of what was happening. They had all been so sure that humanity was simply a fledgling race, a species that would fold under pressure. Instead, humanity was not only surviving, but thriving in the face of the most powerful and ruthless empire in the galaxy. General Vega's calmness was now being echoed across Earth's military leaders. His plan was simple: outsmart the Dralvok at every turn. The Dralvok may have the numbers, but humans had something that no amount of strength could match: innovation. Humanity didn't need to fight with sheer force. Instead, they used their brains, their ability to adapt, and their unyielding will to survive. Back on Earth, the battle raged on. The drones continued their relentless assault, striking key weak points in the Dralvok fleet. Human warships, designed with the latest technology, outmaneuvered their enemies, taking down entire enemy ships with surgical precision. Every move was calculated, every strategy executed flawlessly. For the Dralvok, this was a nightmare they hadn't expected. Their ships were falling one by one, their soldiers disoriented and unsure of how to fight back. The war was supposed to be theirs to win, but humanity had turned the tables. As the first day of battle came to an end, the Dralvok had lost a significant portion of their fleet. General Vega stood in the command center, looking at the reports with a satisfied nod. The battle was far from over, but humanity had made one thing clear: they were not going down without a fight. And the Dralvok would soon learn that when humans say they are ready for war, they mean it. The next day, the Dralvok were furious. Their initial shock had turned to rage. They had underestimated humanity, believing that a few well-placed attacks would send the humans into hiding. Instead, they found themselves battling an enemy who was not only prepared, but also far more resourceful than they had imagined. Commander Xora, one of the Dralvok generals, was standing on the bridge of her flagship, staring out at the vast fleet that surrounded her. Her eyes burned with anger, but there was also a growing sense of uncertainty. The Dralvok had been known for their strength and battle-hardened warriors, yet they were being outsmarted at every turn by these seemingly fragile humans. "We can't let them continue like this," Sora growled, slamming her fist onto the control panel. "They are mocking us. We must crush them. Now." Her officers nodded in agreement. They had never faced an enemy like this before. The humans, with their advanced technology and clever tactics, were turning the tide of the war. It wasn't just the drones or the energy shields that had caught the Dralvok off guard. It was the way humanity fought. They fought with strategy, with precision, and with an uncanny ability to predict their enemy's next move. "We need to hit them with everything we've got," Sora said. "Every weapon, every ship, we will throw it all at them." Zora's fleet had already taken heavy losses, but her determination was unwavering. The Dralvok had always prided themselves on their superior firepower, and now it was time to show the humans just how powerful they truly were. At the same time, back on Earth, General Adrian Vega was carefully watching the situation unfold. The previous day's victory had been a significant blow to the Dralvok, but Vega knew that the battle was far from won. The Dralvok were relentless, and their anger would only make them more dangerous. "They're going to come at us harder now," Vega muttered to his team, his fingers hovering over the controls in the command center. "We need to be ready." As the Dralvok fleet reassembled, they launched their most powerful assault yet. The skies over Earth darkened as the warships approached, massive and imposing. The sheer number of ships now bearing down on the planet was overwhelming. For the first time since the conflict had begun, General Vega felt a slight sense of apprehension. This would be a test. The Dralvok weren't going to stop until they had wiped humanity out. But Vega quickly shook off any doubt. His people had faced impossible odds before, and they had always found a way to prevail. This time would be no different. Activate the new line of defense, Vega ordered. Prepare the energy grid and activate the drones for a full counterattack. Humanity's technological edge had a secret weapon that the Dralvok could not have anticipated. An experimental energy weapon that could harness the power of a star. The device, still in early stages of development, was designed to be a last resort weapon, a way to break through even the toughest shields and armor. Vega had hesitated to use it, unsure of the consequences, but now it seemed that there was no other choice. The countdown began. In space, the Dralvok's ships approached Earth's atmosphere, their weapons primed and ready. They fired, sending blasts of destructive energy toward the planet's defense shields. For a moment, it seemed as though Earth's shield might falter under the pressure, but humanity's technology held strong. The energy blasts were absorbed, redirected, and deflected with ease. The Dralvok couldn't understand how this was possible. Engage the energy weapon now, Vega ordered. The massive device, hidden deep beneath the surface of the Earth. Activated. A brilliant beam of energy shot up into space, a column of pure, concentrated power. It slammed into the Dralvok's closest warship, piercing through its shields and armor like a hot knife through butter. The ship exploded in a burst of light, its debris scattering in all directions. The Dralvok had never seen anything like it. The shockwave of the explosion reverberated through the surrounding ships, destabilizing their formations. Chaos broke out across the Dralvok fleet as they scrambled to regroup. The human weapon had done what no one thought possible. It had crippled one of the largest warships in the Dralvok armada with a single shot. Commander Xora's face twisted in disbelief as she watched the destruction unfold. She had believed that nothing could pierce the might of the Dralvok Empire, yet here were the humans, doing the impossible. "This is not over," she muttered, her fists clenched tightly. "Send in the reserve fleet. We will not be beaten by these inferior beings." The Dralvok Reserve Fleet, a group of ships kept in the shadows for situations just like this, entered the fray. These ships were faster and more agile, designed to outmaneuver larger ships and strike with precision. They were the Dralvok's last hope of turning the tide in their favor. But humanity was ready. Vega's command center buzzed with activity as the reserve fleet appeared. The drones, still in the sky, immediately began to shift their positions, surrounding the incoming Dralvok ships. The AI-guided drones were faster than anything the Dralvok could imagine, and they used their speed and precision to outflank the smaller, more agile ships. The Dralvok's reserve fleet might have been a last-ditch effort, but it was becoming clear that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. Every move the Dralvok made seemed to be countered with an even better move from the humans. Their technology was too advanced, their tactics too clever. The Dralvok were not prepared for a war like this. As the battle raged on, it became apparent to the Dralvok that humanity was not just defending, they were winning. Despite their fury and their overwhelming numbers, the Dralvok were being slowly pushed back, and with each passing hour, they began to realize that they had made a grave mistake. This wasn't a war humanity was going to lose. It was one the Dralvok were going to regret starting. The galaxy would soon learn that when humanity was pushed to the brink, they didn't fight with anger or fear. They fought with determination, and they always found a way to win. The Dralvok Empire, once certain of their victory, found themselves in a nightmare they hadn't imagined. The battle for Earth had entered its fourth day, and despite their overwhelming numbers and superior weapons, the Dralvok were being pushed to the edge. They were unprepared for humanity's creativity, their strategies, and the advanced technologies they had kept hidden for so long. Commander Xora paced furiously across the bridge of her flagship. The reports kept coming in, each one worse than the last. One by one, Dralvok warships were falling, their advanced systems failing under the relentless precision of humanity's drones and energy weapons. The humans were no longer just defending. They were fighting back with a fury that the Dralvok could not match. "What is going wrong?" Xora muttered, her voice low with frustration. We've thrown everything at them. How are they still standing? Her officers stood silently, knowing their commander's anger was justified. No one had expected this. The Dralvok had fought wars across the galaxy, defeated countless civilizations, and yet now they were being outsmarted by the humans. It didn't make sense. The humans were supposed to be weak, primitive. How had they become such a formidable opponent? The Dralvok had never faced a species so determined. The humans, with their relentless will to survive, had already turned the tide of the war in their favor. They had fought to protect their world, and that fight had brought out the best in them. The Dralvok, with all their strength and firepower, had underestimated the one thing that made humanity so powerful: their ingenuity. Commander Sora slammed her fist against the control panel. "Prepare the secondary strike. We will bring in the full might of the Empire. We cannot afford to lose to these creatures." She knew that this was a gamble. The Dralvok's secondary strike force was their last resort, their most powerful fleet, designed to crush any enemy, no matter how strong. If this attack failed, the Dralvok would have no other choice but to retreat, and even that seemed unlikely. Back on Earth, General Adrian Vega was watching the unfolding battle from the command center. Humanity had made progress, but the Dralvok were not a force to be underestimated. Even with their superior technology, Vega knew that the Dralvok had one advantage that humans couldn't easily match: their sheer numbers. "They're not done yet," Vega said, his voice calm but alert. "They'll come at us harder. We have to be ready." Vega turned to his team. "Prepare the anti-capital ship drones. They're going to send in their reserve fleet soon. We need to take them down before they get too close." The anti-capital ship drones were humanity's secret weapon, a new class of drone specifically designed to target the massive Dralvok warships. These drones were equipped with specialized weapons, including ion disruptors that could disable the enemy's shields and weapon systems. If used correctly, they could turn the tide of the battle. As the Dralvok's secondary fleet arrived in Earth's orbit, Vega ordered the drones into position. The fleet appeared massive. Hundreds of ships, all equipped with advanced weapons and technology. The Dralvok were making their final push, but this time, they were going to face humanity's full fury. The Dralvok ships moved into attack formation, their weapons charging as they locked onto Earth's defenses. The humans could already see the energy readings spiking. They were preparing for a full-scale assault. "Now," Vega said, his voice steady, "activate the drones." Hundreds of drones shot out of Earth's atmosphere, moving quickly toward the approaching fleet. The Dralvok, expecting another round of drone strikes, were ready to fire their weapons, but they were unprepared for the speed and coordination of the human drones. The first wave of drones swarmed the Dralvok ships, moving with lightning-fast precision. The Dralvok's weapons fired, but the drones were too fast, darting out of the way with ease. Some of the drones carried ion disruptors, which they used to disable the Dralvok warship shields. With their defenses down, the drones attacked relentlessly, hitting weak points on the massive ships and tearing through the armor. "What are they doing?" Sora shouted in disbelief, watching as one of her most powerful ships exploded in a ball of flame. The Dralvok retaliated, launching a barrage of energy blasts, but it was too late. The human drones were already causing chaos within their fleet. The once powerful Dralvok ships were now disoriented, their weapons failing and their systems crashing. General Vega watched from the command center, his eyes focused on the battle. The drones were doing exactly what they were designed to do: disrupt, disable, and destroy. "They're fighting with precision," one of Vega's officers remarked. "It's like they know exactly what to do." "That's the point," Vega replied. "We don't just fight with power. We fight with purpose." Sora, meanwhile, was struggling to maintain control of her fleet. The Dralvok's once dominant position in the battle was slipping away. Their ships were falling one by one, and Sora's frustration turned to desperation. She had never faced an enemy so relentless, so adaptable. The humans had taken their best shots, but they weren't backing down. "No matter what we do, we can't stop them," Sora said bitterly, her voice tinged with disbelief. How is this possible? The Dralvok had always prided themselves on their strength, but now they were learning the hard way that raw power wasn't enough. Humanity wasn't relying on strength alone. They were relying on their minds, their ability to adapt and fight smarter. The Dralvok had made a grave mistake when they underestimated humanity's potential. As the battle continued, it became clear the Dralvok were fighting a losing war. No matter how many ships they threw at Earth, the humans had already proven that they could match them at every turn. The tide had turned, and humanity's victory was now just a matter of time. And with that, the Dralvok Empire found themselves on the edge of defeat, outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and outclassed by the very species they had fought to crush. The Dralvok Empire's confidence was shattered. The once feared warships that had dominated the galaxy now floated aimlessly in space, their massive structures riddled with damage. The humans, the very species the Dralvok had once thought weak and primitive, had proven to be anything but. Commander Xora paced across the bridge of her flagship, her mind racing. The battle had not gone as she had expected. In fact, it had gone entirely wrong. "We can't let this go on any longer," Xora muttered under her breath. The Dralvok fleet was battered, their technology failing them, and morale was at an all-time low. They had underestimated humanity at every turn, and now they were paying the price. "Commander," a voice broke through her thoughts. It was her tactical officer. "The secondary fleet is down. We're running out of resources. If we continue, we may not make it out alive." Xora's eyes narrowed. She knew the truth behind the officer's words. The Dralvok Empire was built on power and fear, but here, in the face of humans, they were powerless. The humans weren't retreating. They weren't even faltering. They were pushing forward with everything they had, determined to protect their planet. But what choice did they have now? The Dralvok had started this war, and there was no going back. "We will push forward. We will fight until the last ship falls," Xora said, her voice cold but resolute. She turned to face her officers. "Prepare the remaining fleet. We are not backing down. We will conquer Earth, or we will die trying." The Dralvok officers exchanged uneasy glances, but nodded. They had no other choice. The Dralvok were warriors by nature, and it was in their blood to fight until the very end. But deep down, they knew something had changed. The humans were not the kind of enemy they had fought before. These people had a resilience that defied all logic. Meanwhile, on Earth, General Adrian Vega and his team were preparing for what they knew would be the final push. They had given everything they could in the fight for Earth, and now the Dralvok were desperate. If humanity didn't hold strong, it would be the end of everything they knew. But Vega had faith in his people. "Are we ready?" Vega asked, his voice steady but filled with determination. His eyes scanned the screens, watching as the Dralvok's remaining fleet positioned itself above Earth. "We're ready, sir," came the reply from his tech officer. Vega's fingers hovered over the controls. This was the moment of truth. The humans had faced death and destruction, but they had never wavered. They had stood tall in the face of overwhelming odds, and now it was time to finish what they had started. "Activate the EMP devices. Let's disable their remaining ships before they can even get close," Vega ordered. With a quick series of commands, a wave of electromagnetic pulses shot into space, aimed directly at the remaining Dralvok warships. The EMPs were designed to disrupt the Dralvok's sophisticated electronics, rendering their ships useless. The results were immediate. The Dralvok fleet shook as their systems failed one by one. Their weapon systems went offline. Their shields flickered and then died completely. The remaining warships were vulnerable, helpless against the waves of human drones and ships that descended upon them. "Now's our chance," Vega shouted. "Launch the final attack." Human fighters swarmed the Dralvok ships, their agile movements overwhelming the failing fleet. It was like a swarm of bees descending on a much larger creature, relentless, fast, and precise. The Dralvok ships, already damaged and defenseless, were no match for the speed and coordination of the humans. On the bridge of the Dralvok flagship, Sora watched in horror as one by one, her ships were obliterated. The humans had won. The battle was all but over. "No," Sora whispered. "This can't be happening." She had led her people into battle, believing that the Dralvok were invincible. But now she was faced with the undeniable truth. The Dralvok were not invincible. They were simply another empire, another civilization that had underestimated the power of human resilience and determination. "Commander," her officer said, his voice trembling, "we've lost. The remaining ships are retreating, and the last of our weapons are disabled." Zora's heart sank. There was nothing left to do. The Dralvok had invaded Earth with the intention of crushing the human race. But now it was the Dralvok who were being crushed. The human spirit had proven far stronger than they had ever imagined. The thought echoed in Sora's mind like a painful drumbeat. We underestimated them. General Vega watched the last of the Dralvok ships disappear from Earth's orbit. Victory was theirs, and the planet was safe. His team cheered, the tension of the past days finally releasing in a collective sigh of relief. "We did it," Vega said, a smile crossing his face as he turned to his team. "We actually did it." Back on the Dralvok flagship, Sora stood silently, staring out into space. The humans had won, but at what cost? The Dralvok had lost more than a war. They had lost their pride, their confidence, and their fearsome reputation. And it was humanity that had taken it all away. Sora knew one thing for sure. This was not the end of the war. It was merely the beginning of a new chapter. But the next time they faced humanity, the Dralvok would remember the lesson they had learned. Never underestimate the strength and determination of the human spirit. And as Sora turned to face her remaining officers, she made a silent vow to herself. This won't be the last time we face them. The war had ended, but the silence that followed was almost as deafening as the chaos that came before it. Earth had held strong, and humanity had proven to the entire galaxy that they were not to be underestimated. The Dralvok Empire, once a dominant force, had been reduced to a fraction of its former glory. Their fleet lay scattered in space, broken and abandoned. On Earth, the people had begun to rebuild, but the memories of the war would remain for generations to come. General Adrian Vega stood at the command center of the Earth Defense Fleet, his eyes fixed on the stars beyond. The battle had been brutal, and the cost had been high. Lives had been lost, cities had been destroyed. But in the end, humanity had prevailed. It was a victory they would never forget. "Sir, the Dralvok have sent a transmission," came the voice of his communications officer, snapping Vega out of his thoughts. "They want to speak with you." Vega raised an eyebrow. After everything that had happened, the Dralvok were now seeking communication. He hadn't expected this. Still, it was important. The war had ended, but this was the beginning of a new chapter. Humanity had earned the right to determine the future of their relationship with the galaxy. He straightened his uniform, preparing for whatever the Dralvok had to say. "Put them through," Vega ordered, his voice calm but firm. The screen flickered, and soon the face of Commander Tora appeared. She looked different now, her usual confidence replaced with a quiet, almost weary expression. Her once pristine uniform was torn, her face marked by the strain of the long campaign. She had lost as much as anyone in this war. "General Vega," Sora said, her voice carrying a weight of uncertainty. "I come to you not as an enemy, but as a representative of the Dralvok Empire. We are ready to discuss the future." Vega studied her carefully. He had seen Sora on the battlefield, leading her people with ruthless precision. But now she seemed smaller, less sure of herself. There was no arrogance in her voice, no pride in her posture. This was not the same commander who had once threatened humanity with annihilation. "I'm listening," Vega replied. "What do you want, Commander?" Sora took a deep breath before speaking again. "The Dralvok have lost. We acknowledge that now. Your people have shown a strength we did not anticipate. The war has cost us dearly. But we are not beyond repair. We are ready to offer peace." Vega's heart skipped a beat. Peace. After everything that had happened, peace seemed like an almost impossible idea. But he had always believed that humanity could find common ground with others, even in the darkest of times. Perhaps this was the opportunity they had been waiting for. "Peace," Vega repeated, his tone thoughtful. "You want peace after all this? After what you've done to our people?" Sora nodded solemnly. "Yes, the Dralvok are not invincible. We made a mistake by underestimating you. I made a mistake by thinking we could destroy you, but I've seen it now. Your resolve, your courage, your ability to fight not just for survival, but for something more. Your planet, your people, your future. I've seen the human spirit in action, and it has changed me." Vega's gaze softened. He knew that the war had been brutal for everyone involved. Even if the Dralvok had caused the destruction, they were still living beings with their own desires, their own struggles. If they were truly seeking peace, humanity had to be the ones to decide whether or not to accept it. "What's your proposal?" Vega asked, his voice steady but cautious. Sora hesitated for a moment before answering. "We offer a ceasefire. We will withdraw our remaining forces from your space, and we will never again invade Earth. We seek to establish a treaty, a new beginning. The Dralvok will join the Galactic Council, with Earth as a member. We understand that your people may not trust us now, but we are willing to prove our commitment to peace." Vega considered her words carefully. The idea of peace seemed almost too simple after everything that had transpired. But perhaps this was the moment for humanity to show its true strength, not through more war, but through understanding. This could be the start of a new era for Earth, one where they would not be forced to fight for survival at every turn. "And if we agree," Vega said slowly, "how do we know you're not simply planning another attack in the future?" Sora met his gaze with sincerity. "I will not make excuses for the past, General. But what I can offer is my word, and the word of the Dralvok Empire. This is the last time we will wage war against your people. We know now that humanity cannot be defeated through force. You have earned our respect. I only ask that you give us a chance to rebuild." Vega took a long pause, weighing the possibilities. The risk was still there, but so was the opportunity for a lasting peace. If humanity could rise above the hatred and the fear, they could set an example for the entire galaxy. Peace wasn't just about surviving. It was about choosing to move forward together. Finally, he spoke. "We'll need time to discuss this with our leaders. But if this is truly your offer, Commander, then humanity is open to the possibility of peace." Sora bowed her head slightly, a look of relief crossing her face. "Thank you, General. We will await your decision." The screen went dark as the transmission ended. Vega stood in silence for a moment, processing the weight of the decision that lay ahead. It wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in a long time, humanity had a chance to shape its own future. As he turned to his team, he knew this wasn't just the end of a war. It was the beginning of something much greater. A new chapter for Earth and for the galaxy. The days following General Vega's conversation with Commander Sora were filled with tension and uncertainty. Earth's leaders gathered in secret meetings to discuss the possibility of peace with the Dralvok Empire. People across the world were still recovering from the scars of the war, and the idea of trusting the very species that had tried to destroy them was difficult to accept. But there was something else that no one could ignore: the opportunity to build a better future, not just for Earth, but for the galaxy. Vega sat in the war room, looking over the latest reports. The Dralvok had kept their word. Their fleet had withdrawn from Earth's orbit, and the ceasefire had held. There had been no signs of deception. Earth's military remained on high alert, but the soldiers, weary from years of fighting, now looked toward a future without war. "I never thought I'd see the day we even consider peace with the Dralvok," said Captain Sarah Lee, one of Vega's most trusted officers. She had fought through the darkest hours of the war, and her skepticism was understandable. Vega nodded. None of us did. But sometimes, the greatest strength isn't in what we can destroy, but in what we can build. The room was quiet as the weight of his words hung in the air. There was truth in what he said. After all the destruction, after the endless battles, this was humanity's chance to rise above it all and create something lasting, something meaningful. Weeks passed, and Earth's leaders slowly came to a decision. The peace proposal from the Dralvok Empire was not without its risks, but it held the promise of something better. Humanity had proven itself in the heat of battle, but now it was time to prove its ability to forgive, to trust, and to embrace change. The final meeting was set. Vega, along with representatives from every nation, stood before a massive holographic display of the galaxy, where the Dralvok fleet waited at the edge of Earth's space. The galaxy had been divided for so long, but this meeting could change everything. Zora's face appeared on the hologram once more, her expression calm but hopeful. "General Vega," she said, "thank you for giving us the chance to speak again. We are ready to move forward with peace, not just for our two species, but for all who seek a future free of war." Vega's eyes were steady. "We're ready too. The people of Earth have made their choice. We're willing to give peace a chance, Commander." Zora's face softened, and for the first time, Vega saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "You won't regret this. Together, we can build something greater than we ever could alone." The meeting continued, discussing terms of the treaty, how Earth and the Dralvok could work together to ensure lasting peace. They agreed to share knowledge, technology, and resources. Earth would join the Galactic Council as an equal member, and the Dralvok would help guide humanity into the larger community of intergalactic civilizations. Both sides had much to learn from one another, and they understood that the path forward would require trust, cooperation, and patience. As the discussions came to an end, Vega felt the weight of the decision settle on his shoulders. He had led humanity through war, but now he had to lead them into an uncertain peace, a peace that would require strength, but also the courage to believe in something greater than themselves. "We'll move forward together," Vega said, turning to Zora. "But know this peace is not just for us. It's for every future generation. If we fail now, we risk everything. But if we succeed, we'll show the galaxy that there's more to us than war." Zora nodded, her expression resolute. "We understand, and we are ready to walk this path with you." With the signing of the treaty, the war officially ended. Earth and the Dralvok Empire, two once enemies, now stood together on the brink of a new era. There was no illusion that the road ahead would be easy. There would be challenges, disagreements, and obstacles, but humanity had already proven its resilience. They had faced the worst and come out on top. Now, they would face the future. As the final documents were signed, and the news spread across the planet, people gathered in the streets to celebrate. The war was over, and with it, the fear that had gripped humanity for so long. The skies above were clear, and the stars that had once seemed distant and threatening now felt like a beacon of hope. A new chapter had begun. General Vega stood at the window of his office, looking up at the stars. The Earth had survived, and now it was ready to thrive. The humans had not only won a war, they had shown the universe that their strength was not in destruction, but in their ability to build, to heal, and to unite. Maybe, he said to himself, the galaxy has yet to see what humanity is truly capable of. And with that, the dawn of a new era began.